all of my speakers for the first panel is here. You must understand that the Nigerian Fintech Week 2023 is an hybrid um, edition. So all of the people joining us virtually want to say a big thank you. I've received all kinds of comments, commentaries, as well as commendation. We can certainly, obviously, do so much with you guys out there. This program is actually a global one with over 10,000 people represented from across the country, as well as over 80 other countries, as the case be. As you've seen, it's an international program in itself, where we are looking at fintech, the role of fintech, and how it's going to help to drive the agenda for economic inclusion, as a matter of fact. And so, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I just want to quickly find out if Mr. Aboyeji is here. If Mr. Aboyeji is not here, I would like to start up with my panel, as well as the hall gets fuller. For the next 45 minutes, we will be looking at leveraging Insurtech for inclusion and empowerment. One of the areas about this particular panel is going to look at how we are going to leverage data to drive scale. We're also going to explore education and awareness. And I know that the NCC lady had mentioned that yesterday. How much are we doing in terms of awareness? So I'm hoping that the panelists are going to be able to drive that particular conversation to help us cover a lot of this whole issue. The insurance market in the country still has a huge space in terms of opportunities. Nigerians, so much so to speak, have not embraced insurance as much as we have embraced fintech. Let's hope perhaps that the digital platform can give us that leverage that will help us leapfrog, as a matter of fact. Nevertheless, I would like to start by inviting my moderator for this panel, and I'm talking about the managing partner for Africa Insurtech Lab in the person of Dr. Tunde Salako. Please, can you put your hands together as he comes up? The more you clap, the longer and faster and more agile is going to come up. Thank you. Please watch your step. I'm not too sure whether we have insurance, but you let us know about that so you can take the seat that works for you. Usually we'll take the moderator at the end so that you can converse with the rest of your panelists. Thank you so very much, Dr. Tunde. I'm looking forward to your moderation. I know that a lot has been going on in your sector. I mean, a lot of times we read you off the pages of the newspaper, but today we are seeing you live. We're not even seeing your AI version. We're seeing your real person in flesh and blood. And we know that you're going to man this particular panel in the way to go, looking at Insurtech. As a matter of fact, the CEO of Cassava is in the house. Bode Pedro, please can we put our hands together for Bode Pedro as he comes in to join us on the panel. Is he here? I know I'm told he's around. I think he went to quickly grab the tea. But nevertheless, when he comes in, Mr. Dr. Tunde, we invite him up. Next in line, Mr. Michael Kalu, head of Insurtech of Hares Life Insurance, is going to be joining us on this panel. Please can you put your hands together for him? You're welcome, sir. I know Hares Life Insurance is one of the leading insurance companies in Nigeria. And then we are looking forward to have some of the learned experiences, as the case might be. All right, so you just basically join Dr. Salako. Of course, in the house also is no other person, which for me I'm always excited about. But Kalu, may I ask that, Michael, may I ask that you move to the next seat? Yes, thank you very much, pardon me. And I'm going to be inviting Ngonya Kalango, the regional head of sales for Verify Me, West Africa, to come join us up here. Please, can we put our hands together for her? I would like her to sit beside the moderator so that she balances the gender. It is the way we go, as a matter of fact. You're welcome. The microphone is by your side, and then we will kick off as the case might be. I'll be expecting Dr. Oluwatomi Oromosele, if he's ably represented or not, but I'm going to be expecting him. He's been okay. Oh, fantastic. Please, can you put your hands together for her? General Manager Efina. Efina has been one of my clients, and it's great to see that we have you here. And Efina has been doing so much in terms of the publication, especially with the concept and the content for financial inclusion. Without Efina's report, oftentimes we don't know how the industry's image is going to be. We know that projection comes in, as the case might be. It's very good to see you, Dr. Oluwatomi. I'm glad. So right now, for the next 45 minutes, Dr. Salako, you are in charge. You know how it's going to work. We have one more person. Is that Kalu? No. Tommy? No. John? John Dada? All right. Mr. John Dada, how could I have omitted you? The COO of QoreID. Please, can you come up? Pardon me. Please, can you put your hands together for him? Thank you very much. It's great that you are here. As a matter of fact, that is going to make my panel well balanced. That is great. So we have 2 ladies, 2 men, excluding my moderator, who actually has both gender, as a matter of fact, male and female to himself. So, ladies and gentlemen, over to you, Dr. Salako. Please put your hands together for them for the next 45 minutes, sir. So when I come up here, you know we're going to take the Q&A session as well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, one more time. Over to you, Dr. Tunde.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I don't know the part, just a disclaimer. I'm not sure about the part where he said male and female combined together. So I'm just going to, So it's nice to be here, everyone. Thank you for coming in early. Good morning, esteemed panelists. My name is Tunde. I'm managing partner at Africa Insurtech Lab. And because of time, I'm going to let my esteemed panelists also introduce themselves very quickly. And then we'll delve into the theme, which we believe is very, very critical. And that's why the Nigerian Fintech Week has actually designated this segment to talk about how insurance technology is going to unlock new markets, particularly when it comes to the issue of inclusion and deepening penetration. So without further ado, I'd like to start from next to me, and please introduce yourselves, your designation, and what you do for your organization. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ngonya Kalango. I am the regional head of sales for West Africa at QoreID, a Verify Me company. At QoreID, we pride ourselves in providing trusted identities and consumer analytics for organizations in order to, streamline and make their onboarding, profiling, and compliance efficient. I'm very happy to be on the panel, and I look forward to an engaging conversation.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael. I lead Insurtech for the health insurance businesses. We're proud to see that we're a foremost digital insurance company. I'm super excited to be engaging the Insurtech community because I know that together we can actually deepen penetration. So I'm looking forward to an awesome engagement with my fellow panelists.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Oluwatomi Eromosele. I currently head EFINA, and we're focused on financial inclusion. In the last 15 years, we've championed access to finance for Nigerians, and I'm super excited that on the panel today, and as part of this, awesome event, we are interested in seeing how we can extend financial inclusion to all of Nigerians and ensure that no one is left behind. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. John Dada. You can also call me Dr. Flash, because that's the only way I know you're referring to me. I'm the CTO and co-founder of QoreID. And at QoreID, we are focused on driving up the insurance inclusion in Africa. And we believe that technology is one way to do this by making sure that insurance processes are efficient, there is no wastage, there is no fraud, and that there is efficient distribution of insurance products across the continent. It's an honor to be here, and I look forward to us having an interesting time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, esteemed panelists. I think, as you can see, it's an A-list of a different combination of people within the insurance space that are doing different things, from the technology startup to the research-driven community, ably represented, to the incumbent who is cross-carpeting to being a tech startup, and of course, to another tech startup. So we'll delve straight into it. And for context, when we're looking at the team, how are we going to leverage insurance technology for inclusion, and how does that create empowerment? Now, when we look at the fundamental problems, we look at affordability, accessibility, availability. Those three things continue to engender the gap to widen. And obviously, everyone on this panel is trying to do something that will close that protection gap, right? And then when we now come into Africa, we look at the penetration rates. We look at Africa being home to about 18% of the global population, still having the penetration insurance-wise less than 3 to 4%. And when we come home into Nigeria, we have the same similar statistics, less than 2.5%, 3%. Now, product relevance is also an issue. And the major problem, trust deficit, right? A lot of people do not believe in insurance, for starters. So I'd like to set this ball rolling by asking, from your organization's perspective, what you're doing, how can you explain how you're using this as a use case, your organization as a use case, to serving underserved markets, reaching out to, the places that are yet to even fathom what insurance is? What are you doing? I'd like to start with Flash. What are you doing in your organization regarding that?
Thanks, Doc. It's actually pretty interesting that myself and Dr. Oluwatomi here were having a short chat earlier this morning about the fact that the way we picture the underserved population is actually inaccurate or maybe not complete, right? And her point, sorry, I'm stealing your point, but what she said was that aside the people that we have on the markets, the market women or the guys who are pushing trucks or the conductors who we think are the underserved, think about those of us who already have access to certain kind of services. We already have banking services. We already have access to other financial services, but we still do not have access to insurance. We actually contribute to another section of the underserved, right? And that's a very nice one she raised this morning. And what we are doing at QoreID, for instance, in my organization, is to ensure that distribution is embedded. So imagine you are able to get insurance by carrying out your daily activities. You're going grocery shopping, you're buying something online, you're doing a bank transfer, you're buying airtime, all of these touch points, insurance being available to you there. That is embedded insurance. And for us in QoreID, we are really passionate about making sure that everyone, irrespective of where they are, can actually get insurance when they are carrying about their daily lives. So embedded insurance is what we're really focused on as one of our strategies to drive availability and I think accessibility. All right. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Flash. Dr. Somi, from your perspective, we've seen a lot of phenomenal work that you're doing in this space. And I think I referenced one that was published 2021 that had to do with the reasons why a group of people, I think they were farmers specifically, in the suburbs and the rural area were not taking on insurance, right? So from a research perspective and from all the data that you've been able to gather, what can you chime in regarding why there's such a gap, right? Still talking about this underserved population. What are you seeing from the data?
So I think you've spoken to some of them earlier on. When it comes to insurance, there's a popular saying that insurance is sold, it's not bought, right? And so for it to be sold, it means someone has to clearly communicate to you why you need to buy it and convince you that it's something that you need. What we see is that awareness, and I think someone spoke to that earlier in the conversation, is that over 90% of Nigerians are not aware of insurance, and even more of micro-insurance. Because again, when we talk of the underserved, we're talking about more of micro-insurance because again, we're speaking to small, more frequent payments. But then, these guys are not even aware. How do you take up something that you're not aware of? Number one is, that's the question. The second layer is, if you're not aware of something, how do you trust that something? How do you even get convinced to take up that product? So I think, and I think we're all aware of that fact that in rural areas where we have less infrastructure to support financial access points, there is a much more less likelihood that people will be aware or even engage with insurance. Interestingly, what I looked through the data just in preparation for this, and I noticed that for health insurance, we have almost the same percentage of people in rural and urban areas that are using health insurance. So over about 55% of people in urban areas have health insurance, about 50% of in rural areas have health insurance. And you see that what has happened is the health system have found a way, and because health is something that people need, it's more easy to sell when your health is at stake, right? But also is the fact that there is an ecosystem that has been leveraged to drive that, which I think other ecosystems need to leverage on. But my point being, there's the issue of awareness. I think that's the biggest issue. But again, how do you sell it? Except you have a product that is useful, that you can demonstrate the value to me. So I think another thing, challenge is actually the value proposition that we have put forward up till now. Why should I pick it up? How am I sure? The trust factor. So I think all of this, in addition to the issues you've mentioned, accessibility, and all of that. But again, my point is that technology is good, it can help us get to them, but all of these other things needs to be fixed for us to drive access.
Oh, interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So I think that's something that needs to be updated in my own notes. When we look at the different value chains, we're talking about health insurance, similarities between the urban and the rural areas. Okay, I'm sure we're learning from that as well. Michael, so you representing Hairs, you're wearing two hats, right? As the incumbent and as the divergent, if I could use that term. What are your thoughts?
I'd ride on the previous speaker's submission around awareness. I was surprised during the NSAS saga when I was engaging a couple of people and I got to know that they are not aware of the value proposition of insurance. It was quite shocking that in this time and age that we have people. And then it dawned on me that in terms of awareness, those of us who are in this room were just a small percentage of the Nigerian population. And most times we think that we are large, right? So we could just be like 5% of the over 219 million Nigerian population, right? So that means we have a whopping 180 million people who don't know what we know. But unfortunately, whenever we sit in our glass houses, we make models based on who we are, right? Without taking into cognizance the larger population. One of the things that I've seen in our space is a struggle to let those in the glass house know that the people we're addressing are not like us, right? They don't wear our suits, they don't wear our hats, they don't think like us, they don't speak like us. So in terms of messaging, right, taking these facts into cognizance, right, and crafting a message that speaks to them, not us, right, to help us drive the awareness that we've been trying to achieve. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing that, Mike. Very interesting. Ngonya, over to you.
Okay, so I think in terms of trust, that's where we come in as a KYC provider. Our position really is to enable financial inclusion and trust by powering the Insurtechs to provide the services that they do, both to the urban and rural spaces. Is with regards to the adoption rate and the awareness, I think there is also a level of cultural, traditional, and religious belief that comes into play, and that affects the adoption of insurance. With a company like ours who provide KYC for your services, on the one hand, we are enabling you to have visibility on who your customers are. by leveraging, government databases to provide you with identity information. We allow you know where your customers are, confirming, addressing and locationing information. And then of course, what your customers are by providing you with data on, their risk assessment and the likes. So that on the one hand provides trust within the insurance ecosystem, allowing, those who engage it to feel more comfortable in engaging the ecosystem. But on the other hand, what we do is we have learned to merge our technology with the traditional ways in which those in the rural or more underserved areas do things. And I'll give an example. With one of our solutions, which is how we vet physical locations. What we have been able to do is work with insurance companies to vet both traditional and non-traditional medical service providers and get them to be a part of the HMO process. So this has made it easier for the underserved to engage in the HMO process because now they have service providers who are in their local communities and who are affordable and accessible to them. So really that helps them trust the process because they're engaging something that they're already familiar with. And I think that's kind of where the KYC process comes into play with regards to Insurtech and adoption rates.
Thanks for sharing that, Ngoya. I'm going to hold on. I want to ask you to hold on to that thoughts because the next thing I was going to throw out there is from your own lenses, right? And this goes to all the panelists as well. What is that main problem? What is that obstacle that you're seeing very clearly, evidence-based, that traditional insurers have when it comes to penetrating, including people within in the rural areas, in the suburbs, and everything? Now, you've mentioned your KYC technology, but from what you've seen in your interfaces with the traditional insurers, what exactly is that number one problem from your own perspective?
I would say ideally it is really their reach. With traditional insurance, their method is typically agent driven, and that restricts them to their area of operation. So in so saying, bringing in, this KYC engine that we have a logistics engine that is spread across the nation. We have over 40,000 agents in every local government in the country. So in using that kind of service, we have the ability to market and create awareness in different regions and enable those in the traditional insurance sector to reach a wider range of customers that ideally they would miss out on using their traditional method of engagement. I also think going into the accessibility in terms of affordability and customization, that's another issue that a lot of the traditional insurance providers face. Access to microinsurance is limited, again, just based on their region. So, that's those are the key issues and critical areas that I see when we engage traditional insurance.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Ngoya. Michael, what are you seeing? I mean, like, you're wearing two hats, so you could tell us from this side, this is what is happening, and from the other side, this is exactly what you're seeing.
Okay, thanks again. So I'll say legacy systems is one. All right, so the bulk of us traditional insurance, some of us have been using some core applications for like 20 years, all right? And 20 years ago, we didn't have so much of things like APIs. So right now, we're speaking to ecosystem emergence, we're speaking to interconnectivity, IoTs. So if we have to make that move, there has to be the demise of the old and the emergence of the new, right? And the fact that people are used to a certain thing and that they've been doing this thing for a number of years, just waking up to change these things are not very easy conversations. You have to convince stakeholders because this change will have economic implications. Somebody has to put money down, all right, to drive the creation of this technology. And you know that the return on this investment most times is not even 2 years. Right? So whoever is going to put this money down has to wait for a couple of years. And you know the way insurance is. Nobody wants to wait for that number of years. Folks want, I put my money down, convince me that in 18 months, this is what is going to happen. That's not true. So these are the conversations that we need to have, right? Investment in systems that enable us meet the demands of innovation. Good 18, that's one of the places where I've seen her strive, right, in investment in these systems, knowing fully well that, look, the future is here and you have to build for it. So that is something that we know that by the time we start committing to, we'll see the transitions that enable us have handshakes with even new players. Let's say new players like Kurese. Fortunately, they are our partners, right? So new players like Kurese, having those handshakes that, because there are some capabilities that we don't have, that they have. So if I can handshake Curacao properly, right? Curacao and myself in partnership, we can invade spaces that I can invade alone and he can invade alone. So legacy systems is a major challenge in achieving this mandate.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Tommy, so from your research, I mean, there's a lot of data that Afina has put out there, when it comes to the number one, the top three things that top the chart, what would you say for traditional insurers?
So just to piggyback on what he said earlier on, because we're talking about traditional insurance, and your question is, what has been the challenge for why they've not been able to serve the underserved? And back to the point that the underserved are not people in rural communities, the poor. We are the underserved because we are really, I mean, if I ask people in the room, maybe the highest we have is health insurance and maybe car insurance, but there's more, right? So that's the underserved is literally like 97% of Nigerians. And when you look at the data and you ask, Nigerians, do you think, financial information is provided to you in a way that you understand? Majority of Nigerians say no. So, banking is quite easy because I put my money in there. I can see it every day. I can go take it out when I need it. But insurance, when you are asking them to take a bet, then there is more, that needs to be understood. And to your question, I would say the simplicity of information. So beyond just awareness, it's the messaging, right? The fact that to reach those people, your message has to be simple. It has to be understood, right? I think one of our partners would typically say, all of your messaging should fit into a business card. It should be that simple. It should be that straightforward. So it should be simple. It should be understood. Then I think another area where I think that traditional players have kind of faltered or could have challenged, is around the value proposition, but also beyond the value proposition, also the value that it brings to Nigerians. I think in our ecosystem, we rely really on the fact that we think our value is just in meeting claims. But I think insurance has gone beyond that. And also particularly for the underserved. That point where you're coming to meet a claim might already be too late because what it costs them as a poor person, to cope with that, or a disadvantaged person. So preventive, is and I think a step higher that I think we need to get to, where you can actually help them to foresee, because a lot of times they don't have the foresight to understand the dynamics of what they are working with, whether it's in their business or their health, So, looking back and hand-holding them through that process. Because again, insurance is about helping them to be resilient, and that should be our role in supporting them in this ecosystem. And last thing I think is efficiency. Traditional players are really not efficient. They don't have time, the days it will take for you to get a claim. And obviously, Insurtechs have stepped in, and there's technology that has stepped in, but traditional players who have refused to adapt to that. And that's something, time to a disadvantaged person, time to a low-income person. You cannot value that, because Um, like we typically say, 5,000 naira could be what would save a life. Just an insurance policy, right, could be what could save a life. And so when you tell them to wait for days, that could be the end of their world. So I think those few things would be, yeah.
Thank you, Toby. Flush, you've done a lot of partnerships with banks, insurers, in Nigeria, outside Nigeria, you're everywhere. So what is that number one challenge?
Um, it's a very interesting question to answer, coming from what we've seen and the trends that happen. But if I just try to summarize everything, I'll take bits and pieces of what all my other panelists have said. I would say, because yes, I'm so focused on technology, right? I'll say everything from a technology standpoint, a process standpoint, an efficiency standpoint, the moving needle standpoint. So traditional insurance companies tend to be fixated on doing what they know how to do, what they are comfortable doing, even if it costs them lots of bodies. So, for instance, they have a new problem. How do we solve this problem? Employ more people. Show more bodies are the problem. Our claims volumes are growing. What do we do? Let's hire more people to vet these claims, right? So hire more people. Show more bodies are the problem. We want to sell more policies. Get more marketers, right? Everything they think about has a pattern. So they have a pattern of behavior that they are stuck in. And even if they have legacy systems, you upgrade their systems, they still have this pattern of behavior. There's going to be a mismatch, right? Because you're trying to use a modern system to execute your legacy behavior, your old school behavior. It's not really going to be efficient. So there is this unwillingness to change. There is this pattern of behavior. There is this lack of agility that is present in many of these organizations. And part of what we try to do when we deal with them is do some level of reorientation to allow them realize that for you to actually move in these present times, you need to think like a startup. You need to be agile in your thinking, and just let us take care of that for you. You don't need to bother yourself about it. We'll take care of that for you. Just tell us what you want, and we'll help you achieve that. But let go of, they need to let go of their old way of thinking around things, around solving problems, around technology. Because, for instance, an insurance company wants to migrate from what they think is legacy tech to what they think is modern tech. And when we see their RFPs, we are like, bruh, nah, this is not it, right? So we have to take them through a process where we make them realize what is actually going on right now, what tech looks like, what tech can do for them. And they realize that the RFP was like just, a child's play kind of thing. So there is that mental shift that needs to happen. And yeah, that is one of the things I'll say is a major problem, aside the tech and every other thing. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, Flash. So all the insurers out there, please, if you're going to come after anyone, I just ask the questions. It should be him, right? So I'll just hold the next question to start from you. Now moving on to the technology stacks, right? When we talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, I mean, there's a lot of buzzwords, right, being bandied out there. And, everyone is saying, oh, tech, we're using tech. From your experience, right, embedded insurance, you're making the products disappear, right, in the whole, into the behavioral economics of how the consumer is purchasing his daily. So he wants to buy a car. He's not thinking, oh, I need to go and get insurance separately, because you're embedding your service into the product. And in terms of what you guys are doing, fraud, waste, abuse, curbing that, artificial intelligence, machine learning, these technology stacks, how are they really going to assist, to aid and abet deepening penetration from your own perspective?
Thank you so much. So for penetration, using tech, I wouldn't need to repeat all of them. Think about it this way. We have this thing where we say the chicken and egg problem, right? And I like to think about some things in cycles. So if you have a cycle where point A or fact variable A actually affects what happens when you get to step B, right? So in the entire insurance process, everything actually affects penetration. Why do I say that? For instance, if the insurance company is inefficient at processing claims, they're going to spend lots of money processing claims because they're inefficient at doing that. It's going to take them longer times to process claims, and chances that their renewals are going to increase are low because they've not paid out previous claims. Their costs are rising. They are losing money. Inevitably, they are likely want to increase the prices, increase their premiums, and they will not even be focused on trying to reach more people because they are just trying to play catch up. So that single inefficiency of claims processing alone is actually going to affect every single thing that happens in the business. And it goes the same way. They're trying to underwrite new policies, highly inefficient. It's a mess. Paperwork, all this, trying to gather data about your customers, which is where our KYC players come in, by the way. And it's slow, takes time. They don't have accurate data or they get wrong data. And it costs them at the same time. It's like it just keeps going on and on and on. So what we've seen is you solve one problem. For instance, we use AI and machine learning to detect fraudulent claims for health insurers and car insurers, etc. The efficiency gain from that step actually drives down because now they have more resources they can dedicate to put people or put into spreading out the reach, right? So it's like our goal is now let's find out all these bottlenecks that exist in the ecosystem and start fixing them using tech. So eliminating fraudulent claims using AI, and now we're trying to make sure that distribution is possible using APIs and SDKs. For instance, the likes of Alerts, the likes of Piggyverse, they're embedded insurance products using cross-sales APIs, right? And an insurance company doesn't need to do the stress of trying to access the 500,000 users or 1 million users that are present on these platforms simply because we've provided that embedded facility to them and to the technology company that has done that embedding. So I feel like I've said too many things. So to summarize my answer, right? Taking bits and pieces of technology to attack specific problems in the chain of the entire insurance value proposition is how we are actually driving towards the accessibility because every single step contributes towards accessibility at the end of the day. Thank you so much.
Nice. Thank you, Flash. Tommy, to layer on that question, when you look at your own research, your data, there's sometimes from the end user's perspective, you hear, well, they said there's an app, right? But we find out that in Nigeria, if it's not a loan-based app, or if it's not something that has to do with something that can better my life, I'm not going to download it, right? And to your point on clearly defining who the underserved market is, even for those of us in this room, when you talk about web applications, mobile applications, some insurance companies or even Insurtech companies will say, oh, you need to download this so that you can do this, do that. But what we've seen in reality is you find out that the end users are saying, I'm not going to download it because, see, I just need a simple way, that is going to make me connect to this. Your downloading is going to it's going to destroy my data. And people are very, very, data is, So from your own, what are you seeing, particularly when it comes to mobile apps, web apps, the adoption, right? Before we even get into all the fancy things that Flash has explained on AI, machine learning, on those simple, low-hanging, tech-driven things that can aid and abet penetration. What are you seeing in terms of the data?
So I think what we saw is that post-COVID, we saw an acceleration of digitization, right, across the continent, not just in Africa. And so we did see that adoption of digital financial services increased from about 16% in 2018, and in 2020 we had 28% of adult Nigerians that had, used digital financial services. Majority of that payments, right? So again, back to my point earlier, the reason why payment has scaled significantly in Nigeria is because they, like he said, a lot of the integration with banks, right? So and we sometimes, we spank them for that to say, you're 70 banked. We want you to go further. But in insurance, where we're not even there yet, we can't be spanking you because we really want you to deepen inclusion, right? So my point is, banked individuals already have apps. They don't have problem with downloading an app. right? So they are not the ones that will be complaining. I will come to the underserved. And I think because I said, digitization has increased, use of DFS has increased, we need to think about how do we partner, collaborate, ensure that there is, that linkage, and we can ride on people who are already banked. I looked at the data, and just 4% of banked individuals have insurance. So you need to ask yourself, like, these people are financially included. They have a financial transaction account. Why is it then difficult to sell insurance even to a banked person? And back to some of the challenges I mentioned earlier. But again, we know that technology kind of helps us address almost all of those challenges we have all talked about in one way or the other. So on one hand, when we're looking at the banked Nigerians, I do think that the apps and those things can still be, it's the way to go for the underserved and the people that we actually call underserved. I would say what we've seen work is texts. You can't run from that because a lot of them don't even have smartphones. We say mobile phone penetration in Nigeria is at about 80%. Well, probably less than 20% of that is smartphone ownership. So if you want to serve people who are in rural communities who are quite disadvantaged and don't even have the money to buy data for all of this, and this has worked very well in agriculture. So where you see farmers having insurance, it's not because they're using apps. It's because there's a text message and there is, there is USSD, or like, it's also intentional about how, you walk them through the process, right? You give them what text message helps you to this day, helps you to simplify your information. You have to send few, letters, and so you have to be very, very intentional and targeted. So for that community and segment, I think text message will be the way to go. But again, there is still a market that we need to serve within the banked and the financially included population that are equally as important as the underserved that we're talking about.
Thank you, Toby. Michael, what are your thoughts?
One of the questions I usually ask whenever I engage around technology adoption is to ask people, have you ever seen a WhatsApp advert before? And I don't know, but I've not seen. I don't know if you've seen any WhatsApp adverts anywhere in Nigeria. I have not seen. Well, guess what? If I do a survey, almost 90% of everyone here has a WhatsApp. In fact, once I lose my phone and I want to reset, one of the first apps I reinstall is WhatsApp. So, and yet these guys don't have any advert anywhere in this country. So that means value sells itself, right? So, and then I'm asking, why would I want to download an app, right, just to pay for insurance? It leads me to, what are the other ways that we could use to move this agenda? WhatsApp is there. Everyone has it. Why not sell it on WhatsApp? Right? USS is there. Why not sell it? Because we have more people with these kind of phones than the smartphones. So, but one of the challenges which I'm also throwing into this forum is that we've been on the lookout for a credible partner for helping us collect on USSD and WhatsApp. We've had solutions that came and promised plenty things, but delivered just a handful. So if there is anyone here who you have that solution, please let's talk once we're done, right? There is business for you right after this engagement. That is where we have the bulk of our market. I don't need to take you through the stress of downloading anything. You already have the WhatsApp that you've downloaded, not because of me. So I will invade that space and deliver my service to you. So that, for me, I think is one of the ways that we could drive this adoption message and this penetration message. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll start rounding up. Just a quick response from everyone. I'd like to start with you, Ngonya. How do you envision the future of insurance? in Nigeria, in Africa at large, right? With the advent of technology stacks, right? Now that we have, okay, Insurtech, we have, Fintech, there's a lot of stuff going. The question to round up this panel is, what do you see? What's the future looking like from your own lenses?
Okay, that's a very good question. And I think I've touched on this a little already. As much as we are seeing adoption with technology, just because of the market that we play in, I still do very much believe that there will always be a need to merge the traditional with the technological aspect. The accessibility and just availability, you're talking about data and things of that nature for the underserved. And even, those among us, we still have those issues of connectivity. There will always be the need for the human touch in a market like ours. As adoption grows, quite all right, it may reduce, but just with the widespread of the nation and how rural some places are for reach and adoption, as much as we take on technology, the peculiarities of our market will always require a physical and human interaction. So I still see the need for embracing technology, but without eliminating that human touch.
Thank you, Ngonya. Michael, Tommy, Flash, just quick comments. What do you see?
Okay, so technology is there. Of course, omni-channel is another thing. So why not have humans that are empowered by technology? Someone has mentioned trust. Trust is because people don't trust technology alone. But if there's a human to back the technology, the adoption will be better. And then lastly, legacy insurance is sitting on a huge amount of data. Huge. If you enter some insurance company and see their warehouse of files, right, it's enough some of them to cover this room. There's a lot that we could do with that, right? So around getting those things and getting those facts embedded in our product creation and in our delivery, it will help us drive our penetrations.
So in terms of future of insurance and Insurtech, I think that technology would help us to have build more resilience for Nigerians. So rather than the traditional way where we are just trying to accelerate change, which the traditional providers are trying to do. So I'm trying to just enhance my claim mechanism, for technology, it will reinvent that process so that beyond just helping you to cope with a shock, it helps people to actually prevent and be more resilient, because that's the end of what we want to see. At the end of the day, in Nigeria, across Africa, the poverty rate, the frequency of economic challenges, the frequency of conflicts, we need to see that happen. And I think that's where I see insurance going. Technology that enables and reinvents resilience, not just helps you to cope, but helps you to prevent going forward.
Amazing. The way I see the future, my vision of what I see in the next few years is similar to what has happened over the last decade. I remember back in the early 2000s, for you to access the internet, you needed to have like a landline in your house, and you had like a 56K connection. God, those days were frustrating because I'm trying to download Java and C++, and I have to wait forever. But now the mobile phones, the telecom industry has actually revolutionized that. It has changed the way internet is accessed today. That is the way I see in technology changing the landscape of insurance in the next few years. It's going to get to a point where every single person here has insurance without even thinking about it as a big deal, and they're actually enjoying it the same way they are enjoying internet data today because of the mobile phones. And by the way, Chief Michael, we've actually launched a WhatsApp bot, so we can show you. All right, thank you so much.
All right, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Round of applause for our esteemed panelists. This is a conversation that can go on and on, so I'd implore us to please, there's the hashtag NFW23, so you can ask your questions. We can continue the conversations online. I'll pause there and hand over to the MC. Thank you.
technological issues. We need to make sure the microphones are insured. But the thing is this, Dr. Tunde has done a wonderful job. Please, can you put your hands together for him? However, I'm going to take one or two questions or comments. Please let me have Madam Horizon Pay, the CEO herself, is going to make a comment or question. Over to you, ma. And then second one.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the session. I just want...
All right.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to, I don't know whether, I think comments and probably questions, Efina and to the players. You know, yesterday we talked about financial inclusion. We spent quite a lot of time. It was a very good session involving people. And one of the things that we were able to establish is the fact that payments, fintechs in payments have done quite a lot of work. Today, working with the banks, working with SANEF, we have data telling us that we have 1.6 million agent network spread across 774 local governments in Nigeria. And we are here talking insurance today. We are talking about insurance penetration at 1%, 3%, bulk of which are health insurance. We are talking about the lack of awareness. Where is the collaboration between the structure that has been laid all over Nigeria? The objective and the plan of financial inclusion then was for us to have a structure that we could layer different financial services, you know, to penetrate the hinterland. But we have done that successfully with payments. Everybody can pay. You can use your app. You can use USSD. You can go to the agents who can do the selling. Who can do the selling? But we are not seeing that collaboration. There are, 8 micro insurance company in Nigeria. Let's forget about the big boys who are probably not ready to come down. They are there. What have they done? So I hear APIs, I hear technology, but the guys out there, I'm not sure we are speaking their language. So we probably need to look at the target market versus the value propositions. What kind of insurance is the market woman going to buy aside from health insurance? We have a lot of people dying on the roads. How come we are not talking to the bus companies? You know, for us to embed insurance into transportation. We need to go deeper. We need to do more work. But that is not happening with insurance. I think we need to declare a state of emergency on insurance. That's then on awareness. I've never seen, except on social media where people are talking about embedded insurance these days. I've never seen an insurance ad. Maybe old one of ICO with the umbrella. You know, that one resonates. But now, I have never seen. But we have Nollywood, popular theater, that we can layer, you know, information. They do, you will see them, they carry POS terminals on me. So what is being done by the players, you know, today for us to be able to achieve the purpose of financial inclusion as far as insurance is concerned? Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Mrs. Funchal. She's the CEO of Horizon Pay. And then we have the other guy there. Please quickly, Patrick. And it's interesting because a lot of what we talk about, I think it was yourself, Mawu, mentioned that there are just about 30 million Nigerians that have access to smartphones. Am I correct? In 200 and something million population, just 30 million. And all of these 30 million are within the urban setting. So I agree with what she's saying. A lot of times, insurance companies don't like to sponsor events or programs. She's talking about Nollywood. If Nollywood comes to you guys with proposals for awareness and creation, you will say you don't have the budget. So please, let us have some of those issues addressed because these are part of the things in marketing communications that can help to drive this campaign. All right.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Arinze. I'm responsible for brand marketing and customer experience at Veritas Capital. I'd like to first of all say a big thank you to the panelists. There's no gainsaying insurance penetration is low. It's less than 10%. Less than 1% penetration. However, if we collaborate sincerely and genuinely, we can take it further. Recently, there's a WhatsApp platform from Veritas where you can start, finish insurance, buy and sell, and get your certificate. Where is popularity? Nobody knows about it. We must learn and collectively agree that we need to drive insurance penetration by creating meaningful awareness. I won't go on the radio and be telling an insurance person who wants to buy insurance and be telling them about single article limits. Speak the language of your targeted audience so that they can understand what you're saying and be able to see value in what you're giving. What we do, like she said, ICO carrying umbrella or Veritas doing something, we must speak the language of the market we are looking for. Otherwise, we won't go anywhere. There's a huge market, like you said, Carlo. The data for insurance is huge. We can sell, we can drive that penetration, but we must collaborate as providers. Thank you.
Thank you. As a matter of fact, that umbrella advert was in the 70s or 80s. You can imagine. Some people were not born in this hall here. All right. So over to you, panelists. We can only take 2 questions or comments.
So, the SANEF use case that you gave, how SANEF was funded. It was well funded. Fortunately, I used to work in an organization that was a beneficiary of that fund. It was good money, right? You know how much? I wouldn't say. That money is not available in insurance. So I knew how we went to almost the nooks and crannies of Nigeria on the strength of that money to talk to people about banking service. The organization that I worked for then, that money was a very big push and motivation for us because it was almost 4 times our annual budget. So imagine that. So it was enough for us to, in fact, that money made me, I toured all the 17 states in southern Nigeria, that money. So imagine the push that gave to us. Just like the second speaker said, it will take the collaboration of the players, maybe NIA putting funds together. That money came from CBN, right? And you know that the money also came from the banks because that's how CBN gets their money. So maybe the NIA will find a way to have the insurance companies contribute something small, right? So that we can put together a pool of funds to drive insurance education. So once we have more awareness, we have more markets because someone that knows about you that is part of your markets. Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please, if I may ask, who has more money, insurance companies or banks? Banks or insurance companies? So, no, insurance companies do have more money. They don't. No. Yes, I'm trying to put them on the spot because they're looking for money from NIA. This is something that needs to be done. I know there was an advert rule campaign in the papers. Buy insurance, buy insurance. That was in the papers. And like you rightly said, in terms of WhatsApp platform, somebody also mentioned that in awareness. And I think the lady from Awa from NCC yesterday also hammered on awareness. It looks as if the past have anchored events even within the insurance space, which the awareness matter came up. And I think the insurance industry should take up what Mrs. Funsho actually mentioned with regards to using the entertainment platforms. In America, oftentimes when you watch movies, you will see either Pepsi or Coca-Cola fridge or whatever it is. Those are some of those insights that can actually create mind share. So it's important because the insurance penetration in the country is very, very poor. Even auto insurance, some people don't want to even take that up. Third party with regards to whatever it is, all right? So we need to be able to do this because we need our systems, our services to be insured, all right? I don't want to get too passionate because this is not my panel. Dr. Saloko is always looking at me because he's saying to himself, Stephen, you are MC, not moderator. So at this point in time, over to you, Dr. Salako, to wrap up this panel so that we can have a picture and then invite our next speaker.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, esteemed guests. Wonderful contribution and comments. Thank you, esteemed panelists. I think the homework, the takeaways, the assignments is very clear-cut, right? There's the low-hanging fruits, right? I think that's what we need to look at. How do we move into the next frontier? How do we create these mind shifts? Awareness is a big thing. Education is a big thing. And when we look at the end user, who is at the center of it all, right? Trust, relevance, time to value, something very critical that Tommy brought up, right? Those are things that are pertinent to everyone. Before you start talking about, okay, can I even afford it? Do I have access to it? Is it available? right? And then does the product does it fit my need? Is it relevant to me as an individual? I think those are the clear-cut steps that we need to look into. We need to start deep diving into this. And obviously, have these conversations continuously, offline and online, in all matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Tunde Salako. Please, can you come up for us to have an insurance snapshot? Even if we might not insure the picture, but let's just... COO, please, can we come up to have a... Okay, and of course, our keynote speaker to come up as well to have this moment that we want to capture. Please, you want to move forward to the middle? So please, make sure you have your insurance smile put on. Because it's one of the ways we can penetrate the market with your smile. Are they smiling insurance-ly? No, they say you're not smiling with insurance. So. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. Please, can you put your hands together for Dr. Salako and his team that has done a wonderful job in helping us explore this subject matter of insurance. There is a need for us to make sure that we are able to address the marketing communication angle of all of this conversation. Awareness, education, it demands also budget, and that is part of the reason why we say a big thank you to all of the sponsors that have made this particular event possible. If the sponsors didn't identify with this program, I'm very sure most of us might not be here. And I can imagine the kind of awareness that has created for everybody. So sponsorship is one of the major channel, strategic channel, by the way, that can help us not just put up your brand, but also engender the conversation within any industry that we might be exploring. So thank you very much, Dr. Tunde Salako. Thank you, Mr. Bode Pedro. Thank you, Mr. John Dada. Thank you, Michael Kalu. Thank you, Dr. Oluwatomi. And of course, thank you, Kalango, for this particular session.